So we are here with the artist currently known as Sym Fera, but until recently, people didn't know who you guys were. And I know you may not like the word reveal. It sounds like somebody from The Masked Singer or something, but you had the big reveal this week, and I
That's
have so many questions. I don't need like how, I guess now the cat is out of the bag that you guys have been doing this project for 5 years. So I guess I'll first ask you guys to maybe give a little history about how it came together and why you kind of kept your identities secret in until now.
then you can take that. I think you describe it best.
Well, I mean, the journey's been a long one. We've been making music together for a lot longer than 5 years, and we've known each other for longer than 5 years. But um, we started making music together with a lot of other people, collaborating with a lot of other people, and then we started not really being able to schedule time to get together with everyone, and then it was just became him and I, and we wrote a song to just him and I, and we were like, "Oh, this is actually fun, more efficient," and we end up liking the finished product better. And so we kept going with that, and it just kind of kept songs just kind of kept coming out and out and out very quickly and easily. We made so much music, obviously, before we decided on a song that was good to put out, as most people do. Um, I'd say. And
And
I
even
think now,
called or look like or whatever. We didn't really have an idea for a project. We were doing it for fun. And
it was like a creative outlet. And then eventually we were like, we should put this out. And I mean, there's a bunch of other pit stops along the way for side quest stories and all of that. But we got to the point where we felt validated is probably the wrong word for it, but we felt like we put music out and it was appreciated by those that did get access to it, whether they were friends or industry folks that we knew or through the syncs. And we felt like, okay, cool. Like we feel like what we're doing is something we're really proud of, and now we don't think that who we are will get in the way of the quality of the art being appreciated.
yeah, and it's not just my weird or obvious situation. And Vinny is his company has to be delicate. He has a lot of high profile clients.
Mm.
And so, there's some stigma there about being involved in your own artist project when you're managing other people's careers. So he wanted to be careful, I guess, and delicate about the way he handled that because he's a professional. And
But
yeah,
before we actually officially started this interview and we were like chatting a bit, Nick, you told me that there were some people that before you finally, came out, so to speak, whatever, like that people were sort of guessing, or people
well,
did start to get wise kind of maybe relatively recently.
yeah, I think that was part of our decision. Just post about it and get it over with. But we had all these like, oh, should we do like an interview or should we do? And then we were both, I don't know. Vinny and I are easy cringes. We cringe easily. So anything that seems like that feels like we're trying too hard. Like let's just make stuff that we like and just do it. So we just decided to put a, just post a video. But yeah, we weren't trying to be mysterious or like make it a thing. I think the people we spoke to who noticed our music kind of made that a thing because I guess it
Mm.
was the talking point. But we were just like, no, we just wanted to see if anyone liked the songs. We weren't trying to like, who are they? Like we just thought like, oh, that was a given in the digital age. Like a lot of people don't show pictures of themselves and don't think twice about it. But yeah, a couple people on socials did, I don't know, through the algorithm or whatever, they did put two and two together. And like I got a couple DMs on the band account that were like, "Are you this?" And a couple people guessed Vinny, which I was like, I don't even know how they put that together, but the band name is a play on our last names, but
That's
it's
true.
misspelled. It's not supposed to sound like any particular word.
Did anyone
Um,
guess wrong? Like this is like the
yeah,
Masked
yeah,
Singer
yeah.
where you're like, who are they? It's
Yes, a couple people. I think I actually mentioned that I was doing something musical, and then I just didn't. I said it on some podcast, um, and then somebody was like, "Oh, I bet he's the guy in Sleep Token," and I was like, "No, definitely not." But they're rad, but I'm definitely not the guy in Sleep Token. But
there is something you said in the digital age. There are people that are mysterious, but the flip side of that is there's with a lot of artists, there's no mystery now because of social media.
yeah,
Like what someone ate for Breakfast Today, I feel like,
Ironically, Vinny and I
yeah,
are not a fan of that. So that was also a relief to do it this way. We were just kind of like enjoying. The only thing people got to touch was the stuff, and even though the audience was smaller than it could have been, it was really satisfying for that reason because that was the only thing they were talking about. And now, of course, there's other talking points that we're seeing. But it's like we might as well try to do the thing if we're going to do the thing.
there's
So,
something to be said for a little bit of mystery. Look at people like Daft Punk or
yeah,
Sia or whatever. Another thing we were talking about before the interview starts, there have been some famous stories of people who submitted their music to radio, whatever. Donny Osmond was an example. I was talking about The Alarm was an example
yeah, I didn't know
where,
that they did
yeah,
that.
where they like, so this was in the radio days before really streaming was a thing, which is a totally different landscape, but where they would send their stuff to radio with a white label so that there wouldn't be this preconception, and the radio people would, the programmers would give the song a chance, which they might not if they knew who did it. So, obviously, Nick, you've alluded to it, but was that a concern particularly for you? Particularly since this isn't a rock project at all. People would probably assume, given
Not
who
really.
your father is, that you being a hard rock band or whatever. Was that anything that factored into either the secrecy at the beginning or the fact that you let the secrecy go on as long as it did?
Yeah, it was mostly it's genre concerns are definitely part of it because we're in a weirder lane than I think people um, expected from either of us. I mean, Vinny is very enmeshed in the very like mainstream pop world, big stadium shows and stuff, and it's a very particular soundscape in those areas. And then, of course, I'm people expect me to be in a straight ahead rock band. I mean, that's kind of if you meet me and know about my family, you kind of go, all right, he's probably going to be in a rock band. And Vinny and I found ourselves just we have more eclectic tastes than that. The stuff that we listen to for pleasure is different. It's not necessarily so, oh, you're too cool to know about this stuff. It's just we have a lot of different genre interests, and we didn't feel like picking one. So we love artists like Beck and Bonnie Iver and these strange like can't put your finger on it in the record store lanes. So we knew that's what we wanted to make after a while. So we were like, all right, well, maybe we just won't engage with the people who expect a certain thing from us.
Vinny, do you have anything you want to add about, your concerns about this? I'm sorry, I'm calling it a reveal. I know I'm making you cringe by
No,
calling
it's
it that.
okay.
It just sounds like very dramatic to be like, it was a reveal.
Um, I mean, genre-wise, we did try to be just whatever we liked. Like that was kind of the goal of like, would we listen to this band? Is something Nick said before and past conversations, and um, I think we got there.
We're
I
always trying
feel
to
it.
get them.
Yeah, we're always still trying to get there every single time. That's like the goal when we're in the studio is like, would we like this band and want to go see them play and buy their music and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we've operated for a really long time. And this is how we continue to operate. And then we don't put ourselves in a box of a genre or anything else because we've made music of like we're doing a collaboration right now with a friend, and that music is very much in his genre that we love. We're fans of his music, and it's completely different than the stuff we have out, you know. But then we have songs like Nobodies that are is very organic instrumentation, drums, bass, guitar, violin, and then we have songs like Bag, which is every single instrument is electronic. So
Hopefully, we tie it together with the writing style, the melodies, maybe the voice or something. Hopefully, it ties it together. But I don't know, like there's artists like Beck, and Bjork, and where I'm just like, I like Beck's albums because they're good, not because they stick to one aesthetic. I mean, those albums could be totally different artists if you. And I think that's luckily for us. I think that's the lane that's happening now. I think that's one of the good things about streaming is that I don't think young people are picking a lane and staying in their little club. I think they do listen to a lot of different stuff. I think pop stars like Billie Eilish, who in I think in previous eras would have been put in the alternative bin at the
Hmm.
record store,
Yeah,
are now mainstream pop artists. I think that's a sign that I don't think people need anyone to really commit to a box. I think they just is it good or not, and I think everybody's streaming playlists look a little eclectic now. So
absolutely.
lucky for us. Yeah.
So just a couple more questions is about the whole secrecy thing, because I think, you know, it's exciting, and your announcement just literally dropped today, the day that we're doing this interview. Um, how many people within your circle know? I'm curious, you know, in particular, Nick, I'm curious if your family knew. I've actually interviewed your sister,
Oh, yeah.
Sophie, who also does music that is maybe not would be expected
No,
of her.
but she's a powerhouse. Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing. She had to
So
prove herself more than once because of that, what you just said.
yeah. Yeah, because she's doing, you know, pop stuff and writing for other people. So yeah, I don't know if she knew about it, if your father knew about, like, how close to the vest were you keeping all this?
We just had to make sure they didn't blab. They definitely knew the whole time. In fact, my dad's been wearing a hat with our logo on it for like 4 years. He just didn't tell anybody what it was. So he wears a lot of free hats. Like people will give him a free hat. And so he's been wearing this little rune sigil that we use as our symbol, and just not. And that hat has gone for a very wild ride that I didn't expect it to, and didn't want it to necessarily. Like I think it's in a picture with like Flavor Flav or something.
I'm sure it is.
Not our particular. It's not
And
really
wasn't that an
really
Easter
what
egg?
Jimmy and I pictured for our PR outreach was him taking that hat for a ride. But it was very sweet of him not to tell anybody, and now he's telling everybody, of course. But and so yeah, my sister helped me work on one of the songs, so she posted one as though it was an indie band that she worked with in her songwriting career. So she writes for other people most of the time. So she posted it once because she helped me uh, produce one of it and sang some harmonies on one of them. And and people were like, "Oh, it's cool. You're working on an indie band. That's great." And she didn't. I begged them not to tell anybody because I just wanted to see how people would like it on its own. So we were pretty satisfied with how that went.
And your dad is a big mouth, and I say that in the most affectionate way, but he's
Incredibly,
a talker, so that's pretty cool that he was able to keep it a secret.
yeah, it's the bane of my existence. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to. I mean, you know, obviously we got to address the family thing, but having interviewed Sophie, and I've actually interviewed a lot of second generation people. As you know, I literally interviewed Alexandra Richards this week. I've interviewed, you know, Danny Harrison, Julian Lennon. You know, lots of people who
I
my
know.
hop. Yeah, and one thing I always wonder is, you know, some of those people have told me, not all of them, but some of them have told me that when they wanted to go into the arts, into music, into entertainment, their parents were like, "No, kid, go to law school, go to medical school, be an accountant. You know, this is a hard life. You know, obviously it could be a really fun life, but you know, it's being in rock and roll, being in music, whatever, is not the most stable existence." And maybe some of the parents also anticipate that there might be some pushback because of cries of nepotism, whatever. They're like, "Hey kid, are you sure you really want to do this?" So I wonder if you had any of those kind of conversations when you decided to do music, where, you know, you had to sit down with either of your parents. Actually, I mean, they're both celebrities, and like, just were
Uh,
like, "Are you sure you want to do this?"
no, I think they're just like do whatever makes you happy. I mean, I don't think they're worried about. I grew up pretty thick-skinned, pretty young. I think I cared a lot about pushback when I was like a teenager, but I don't think
Mm.
I wasn't. You get used to it pretty quick. I think people whine about having a great life all the time. I don't think I have anything to whine about. I think I have a great life, so I don't really. I will wince about. I think anybody. I mean, people get pushback when they are not related to someone well known and try to put themselves out there and put their stuff out there. You get pushback anyway, and it's even harder to get in rooms for. So I don't think I have anything to complain about. We have a lot of resources at our disposal and a lot of time to do this. So I don't have any complaints really. And I think they were just like, you can do whatever you want to do. They're fine. They wanted me to go to college, which I did. That was kind of like, it's like get educated and don't what's the swearing etiquette on your podcast? Sorry.
Go for it.
Yeah, they're like, don't be an asshole and get grades, and that's pretty much whatever else is fine. Just be decent. Um, don't be an ass. Pretty common sense stuff. And I think Vinny, you were pretty encouraged, right? I mean, your dad's a player and not a
Yeah,
player,
I
he's a
felt like
player.
my dad was a musician and also like built recording studios and stuff like that. So a little bit of like in terms of the industry I work in, I grew up where everyone knew who my dad was in that sense, because he was like wiring and installation for a lot of the people I work with and a lot of the vendors I work with. So that was really cool environment to grow up in. But I definitely grew up in the if I was interested in something musical, it was like, here you go, here's the instrument in your hands. It was very nurturing.
Yeah, we were both very encouraged. I think it wasn't very
Yeah.
like, wow, he's basically like both our dads are like, who cares? I mean, well, that's also the deal. I think people wince a lot at like people are being mean to me on the internet. It's like, well, that's the deal. You put yourself on the internet, and now people get to say what they think about it. So if everyone thinks you suck, they get to say that, and that's what they get to say. It's, you don't have to read it all. You can just keep making stuff. Um, and if you read it, you don't have to take it that seriously. I always say if you take people criticizing you seriously, then you have to take your compliments seriously, and then you become a narcissist. So I would say take both the compliments and the criticism with a grain of salt, and just I take criticism from people whose work I respect seriously, and then I take kind of the aggregate seriously. But to take it emotionally is a waste of time, I think.
You mentioned how you maybe when you were younger didn't have as thick a skin, but then, then you I guess I'm asking, how did you develop that thick skin? I mean, also you were on reality TV at I forget how young you were when that show was running.
I ran from age 16 to like age 23 or 4.
And so you
So
were a little older than I thought, but still, like, your teen years are sensitive years where,
I'm mostly just glad I didn't put out music around that time. I
Mhm.
think it would have been what everybody, I mean, Vinny knew me around that time too. We were jamming together. And there were, you're on a TV show and they're like, here's a record deal. And they're like, I don't have any songs yet. They're like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. It's really not the way to do it, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It's an opportunity, but I think it would have been wrong. I don't think the stuff would have been any good. And I'm really glad we did it now. I'm really, even people were like, why'd you wait so long? It's like, because it wasn't any good. And now I like it. So now we think it's better. So finding the right partner and getting better at your thing. I mean, I wasn't a terribly good singer. I was singing a lot in clubs and just like trying to get better. But there's these larval formative stages that if you're thrust into a camera situation right away, it's very rare. It takes like the Billie Eilish, Lord, type of prodigy to be this sort of fully realized artist right away. Most of the time, I think people are more like me, where I think I was, um, you try to mimic your heroes and you kind of slowly but surely get better at a thing, but you suck for a long time. And I mean, that's what Dave Grohl said about Nirvana. Like they were in a garage sucking for quite a while before they became Nirvana. So I like that we got a chance to put our 10,000 hours in after the show and didn't take the easy deal we could have taken with for no reason other than they saw a chance to make a quick buck. I like it better this way. We put it out because it felt like it was good enough to put out and no other reason.
Well,
I don't know if that answers your question. What was your question? I'm sorry.
I mean, I asked how you develop your thick skin, but I think
That I mean,
you
like, yeah,
said
like
applied to that for sure.
larval stages. I mean, it was like you get a lot of weird people coming at you when you're on any TV show of any size. So I think I just got used to just not reading or just ignoring. Just ignoring. I mean, it's like we all know what this is like now because social media has taught every young person that people are super cool online and really nice and always really fair to everybody. So I think we all know, like, oh, that's just YouTube comments. Definitely don't pay any mind to that.
What year did Family Jewels run, or what years?
It must have been like 2006 to 2015,
So the aughts.
something like that. Yeah, something
Yeah,
like I
I
don't
guess
remember.
you were. The reason I asked is, I mean, MySpace existed then, I guess, but like the social media that
Wasn't as
exists.
it
Yeah.
wasn't as ever present. That happened within my formative years. And Vinny and I both remember when that became the main. I mean, Vinny and I were friends just before like the I think Facebook really became sort of the center of commerce for everybody.
Yeah. But like
So for better,
Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever they call it now. I
yeah,
still call it Twitter.
we hate it. We're trying our best, but honestly, we're kind of deliberately bad at it.
Well, a little bit of mystery, like I said, is good. You don't need to be online all the time.
Make stuff, and that's that. That's the main thing.
So this question applies to both you, given the lineage that you both come descending from, people in the industry. But, I mentioned the Nepo baby term, which is a relatively recent term, but I also mentioned that I've interviewed a lot of second generation musicians, including Sophie. But, one of the things obviously if you come from a certain background, you have certain connections, you have advantages in the business. But I think it's this fallacy that if you come from people in the industry or people, who are famous or whatever, that like everything is just handed to you. And that, for every door it opens, there might be a door that at least partially shuts.
First of all, I want to make this clear. Vinny is the opposite of a Nepo baby. Vinny's like the most self-made person I'm aware of.
Okay. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant
No,
the
no, I
fact
know.
that
I just want to I want to make sure everyone knows that about him because without his resources, this project would look very different. And
amazing.
I mean, that logo behind him is his company, the Beehive, and he built it with his partner Johnny from the ground up, and it's now like the biggest artists in the world rely on him for this.
So
So
cool.
I'm riding his coattails a little bit more than anything. But
It's very sweet of you to say thank you.
No, I can tell this is a real partnership, which is awesome.
it also helps that we look like we're related. But anyway,
Put your eyeglasses on, Nick. I'm just kidding.
yeah.
Now I see the resemblance. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
guess, but yeah, the sort of
Sorry, yeah,
idea that, I guess maybe this does apply more to you, Nick, but the idea that it's not a total shortcut. I mean, there's a lot of
No,
struggle.
we're not playing stadiums. I mean, if it was, I'd be as big as anybody right now. But no, I think there's a lot of stuff that's handed to you. I think mostly what's handed to you is time to do what you want to do. I mean, that's the biggest luxury of all is you have a safety net and you're not going to starve tomorrow. And in terms of me, my safety net is I was on a TV show for a long time and I have, I got to earn income before I was spending on rent and stuff. So it's an incredible leg up just right there. And so, and your loved ones are like, don't worry, you can pursue your dreams, whatever. A lot of people don't have the luxury of just pursuing their dreams all day. They have to, they have a day job. And so I think to try to diminish that or, if someone in my position tries to go like, no, I really worked really hard. I think that it falls on deaf ears because everybody else knows what it's like to be a working adult. So I'm kind of on the side of the people who criticize the Nepos personally because they're right in a lot of ways. It is very irritating when someone in my position not only wants their attention and money, but also wants them to like them. It's obnoxious. We don't have to like you. You're having a great time pursuing your art. That is its own reward. So to wince about it, I mean, I think I've talked about this already. Jack Quaid, I think it's Dennis Quaid's son, who's now a successful actor in his own right. And he's a good actor is kind of the main point is that he's not a successful actor because of Dennis. He probably maybe got in the room with these people because of Dennis, but he's on these shows because he was a good actor and they wanted to cast him. But he said like, yeah, I'm incredibly lucky. He's like to go like, no, I had no help. And I try to diminish it is obnoxious. I think that's tone deaf and silly. It would be silly to try to diminish the fact that even just not having credit card debt in any moment in your young life is a crazy leg up. Most people are living with debt day to day. Most people need a day job to get by day to day. I get to pursue music. It's incredibly lucky. So all that's left is to not be a dick about how lucky you are and just forward.
I appreciate that. So yeah, you're not playing stadiums yet, but I do know you played, I think you've only played one show and it's one of my favorite venues. Two. I know about the one at the Lodge Room. What was the other one?
We jumped up and did a guest spot. It's not a real full show. We did a guest spot with an artist that we are working with soon, that we're going to put out stuff with soon at the Troubadour.
Can you say who the artist is or?
Yeah, his name is Dylan LeBlanc.
You're working with Dylan LeBlanc. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible. And I approached him as a fan. I was just a fan of his stuff. And he took a liking to our project before we were out there. And he was like, I want to do something. So we just did a session in Nashville. And
It's the artist I was referencing earlier.
His sound is different than ours, but so what? I mean, we're going to make some sort of hybrid record and we'll talk about that later when it's finished. But yeah.
Amazing. Well, the reason I asked about the one show I knew about, which was the Lodge Room, one of my, favorite venues here in LA, is that's the only show that I knew or the only full show you've done. And I understand that was also shrouded in secrecy. It was like one of those Jack White shows where they put your phone in a pouch. And
I didn't know Jack White did that. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
No,
that was
Vinny's idea. Vinny was like, let's just test this out and see if we have something here. And Vinny, you want to talk about?
Transparently, that's an element of anxiety of mine. Like a big part of why we've kept this like at least on my end, a big part we've kept it is like I have a lot of insecurity around putting ourselves out there musically. I used to have an artist project I put everything into, and it
Do
didn't
you
get to.
mind saying
It was
what
just
it
under
was?
my name. It was
Okay.
just under Vinnie Ferra,
Hmm.
and I did it for a long time, and
Great.
put a lot of my like blood, sweat, and tears into it. And Nick is obviously a super supportive music partner, and he thinks the world of my music, and it's always been so great to partner with someone who thinks that. But the rest of the world didn't feel that way, and so it's really risky putting yourself out there. And I found it a lot less scary to just do it with no one knowing who I was or who we were, you know?
Honestly, I mean, people think the anonymity thing was my idea. It was mostly Vinny's idea. It was,
Oh,
I think Vinny was urging us to stay behind, and simply because of that, he goes like, I just want to make this thing that is separate from me, that has its own identity, and then I can make it exactly who I want it to be. And it's there's a comfort in that. And I think still we both kind of miss it a little.
well, it's only been a day.
I know we're both like, we should have waited longer.
The show itself, Secrecy, was to really just like, you go to shows and you see this the whole time.
Hmm.
And there was none of that. And it was really cool. And for me, the show is basically, you know, what I do for a living, realized for my own project that Nick and I have. So it was like a resume. So I was also really particular about making sure that like, okay, I want to make sure this is good before it potentially goes on the internet. And we had a great time. So
Well,
We
now
got
I
to
have
use
to.
because
So
of
go
his
ahead.
company. We got to use. Sorry, I mean, sorry, it's lagging. We got to use his company's, crazy. These are resources that are used for. I don't even want to say clients, but I mean, clients you've heard of, and so it's like lighting setups that should not be in the hands of an indie band were used, and like that I couldn't afford to get were it was just like this sort of very visual show, and we knew that people would be doing that the whole time. So we were like, what if we just did it? I mean, I'm a stand-up comedy fan, so I'm like, they collect phones and bags there, and it does kind of make the room kind of magical because people are just forced to kind of have reactions, like emotional reactions, good or for ill. And it was really Vinny and I loved watching it because we were like, look at them, they're all just staring and like talking and reacting and stuff. It was pretty cool to
So,
see.
so I got to ask, particularly you, Vinny, because you said you had anxiety about putting yourself out there with your identity known behind this project. So the Ghoulish Machine EP is out, the announcement's out. Yeah, how are you? Well, this is a question for both of you, but like, how are you feeling? Like, it's still a very new announcement, and I don't know what the reaction has been so far. The reactions is probably still coming in, but yeah, just how are you feeling about, now that you've let the genie out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. Like mentally, how are you feeling about this next step of uh having your identities out there?
on my end, most of the people in my close like circle and friends already knew. So not much has changed for me except for people asking me how to like the question you're asking me, which is like, how is it to like for that. So it hasn't really changed much for me other than the fact that it's now just more of a conversation piece between me and my peers, who again already knew I had this project because I was not afraid to tell my friends about something I was working on, and whatnot. So it's stayed pretty small for me. I think probably the biggest change is going to be for Nick because Nick has a much more significant social media presence and online presence as an individual than I do, you know.
So Nick,
Uh,
how are you feeling?
well, then he deliberately he stays.
I love the dynamic between the two of you because you just kind of keep like praising, like, don't talk about me, talk about it. Like
Right.
you both keep lobbing the ball back. I think it's actually very cute and endearing that you have that partnership. But like, it's like, oh, I'm not you talk to him. Like, I like it. It's very sweet.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That's none of us know how to take a compliment, which is also how we're handling this actually, because people have been very nice, and I don't really know how to deal with that because I, negative stuff's easy to ignore, but I mean, we haven't had much honestly so far. People seem to be pretty encouraging, and they're kind of like a lot of people are kind of like, oh, who knew? Like they're weirded as weirded out as I thought they'd be that I'm not in a you know, like an AC/DC rock band gig thing. Which is like, there's no hate. I mean, I grew up on that kind of music. There's no hate there. I mean, my
Yeah.
brother from another mother, Evan Stanley, is in a rock band. It's like straight ahead rock band, and he's doing great. And they are great. And I just knew that, and he just kind of led with it. He was like, "Yep, I'm doing the same thing that people want me to, and here it is, and there it is." And it's like that was smart for him to do because he's in the genre that they're expecting. So the right move for him was to lean into it. And I'm kind of go like, "Oh, we're doing the exact opposite thing, so we should probably have the exact opposite strategy of not leaning into it." But yeah, so far people have been very nice and supportive, and again, I don't read so many comments myself. I mean, we have a manager who tells us things and like, oh, you should respond to these people, but um, I don't like pour through them. I think that's um, a terrible idea for everyone to do. I think
Yeah. I
that's
think,
just
well, the other, you talk about having a different strategy. This project kind of had its early success. Maybe now you'll perform live more and stuff now that people know you, who you are. But like it was all my impression, it was mostly through syncs that you kind
yeah,
of got, which is complete. I mean, it's completely different than Nick, your father's generation, where it was about either radio or touring
live shows.
and or just even yeah, and as we actually were talking about this before we started the official interview, that there was a time that having your songs placed in anywhere was considered selling out, and now this is totally what you guys do, and you've built a whole like word of mouth career already just from that.
That's very nice. I mean, yeah, it's funny. Within my within my 20s, I think that changed. I remember when like it was Nirvana age sort of authenticity culture where it was sort of like if your song's in a commercial, you're done. Like we don't respect you anymore. And now it's like this is how young artists make a living. They need to make a living. You know, syncing is a good way to do that. Try to get your songs in stuff. And it's sort of like it's an essential part of like indie music culture is getting your songs in visual medium because one, I think TV is good now, or a lot of it is. Like the post Sopranos, post Breaking Bad TV culture has upped the ante on how dramatic and weird it can get. And I think we just got over that sort of I don't know. I mean, we realize a lot of the people who are being helped by this are often not, it's not just like the Stones again. It's, you know, Scorsese syncs them, but like a lot of these shows are breaking young, emerging kind of like bedroom pop artists because it suits the scene, it suits the mood. And that is kind of what happened to us. I mean, we got signed to a deal before they met us, and we got synced without them knowing who we were a bunch of times. And that felt really good. I mean, it just felt like, oh, so these music supervisors, they just thought the song worked for their show and they're not going to sabotage their own show on a song that doesn't work just to do someone a favor. And they wouldn't anyway because they have no idea who we are. So it was incredibly satisfying and gratifying that we got synced and that people then Shazammed the sync and found us and listened to us because it was just the purest form of like, the only reason we're doing this is because we like this song, period. And we know that because there's no other way for them to find us. So that, I mean, that's kind of why we started talking about, oh, we should just come out and do this now because that was the evidence we wanted that, oh, maybe this is worth doing. Maybe we're onto something here.
And no fears that there'll be any kind of negative, like that the stuff that you've built semi anonymously might change in terms of how
You
people
know,
might.
that you like the song, you like the song, right? But I also don't care. We're
Well,
going to do
what's
it anyway. I think that's sort of the theme is like Vinny and I are going to, what Father John Misty wrote that song for Spotify where he made fun of Spotify, where he's like, someone figured it out. We're gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. He just wrote that. It's a song called "Everything Is Free Now." Ironically,
okay? I'll have to check. I don't know that song, but I like him, so I'll have to check it
yeah,
out.
it's a lambast of streaming culture and not paying artists as well. Um,
Mm, mm.
Also,
Well,
it just applies.
there's
We
that.
are going to do it anyway, no matter kind of how it goes, because we that's how we started. We started wanting to do this thing for our own satisfaction. So,
And
we're,
what do your parents think of this project, this music?
Vinny, what do your parents think of it?
Oh, my parents love the more organic songs. They love the stuff we're doing with Dylan. They love Nobodies. When my dad can't understand what Nick is saying because he's singing in falsetto voice and hears just like a snap or a clap, he
What a
goes,
thing.
"Yeah, it's not for me, but sounds cool. I'm proud of you."
I can always tell
But
when my parents like or not like something when they go specific with their praise. Like they're always very supportive, but they'll be like, he'll be like, "This is a great song." So I go, "Okay, he liked that one," and then he'll go, "I love the bass on that one." I go, "He hated that song. That's terrible." He goes, "Very interesting." I go, "Yeah, that sucked. That he hated that."
Very, very interesting. Does seem a little.
He's a terrible poker face.
So what is I'll wrap it up. What is next for you? It's like a new chapter for this project. Is there, I mean, you mentioned the Dylan LeBlanc thing. The EP is out now, but or this week. More live shows,
Yeah,
more,
we're
what
trying to
else?
figure that out. I think that's next in the
we're
doc.
working on doing something in the beginning of December, which would be 2 years since the last show, or 3 years.
Wow.
Something like
Yeah, three
Very
years since the last show. So we're working on doing something like that in December. I think going into next year, it's going to be more music, more content, and then
any
hopefully more shows.
any
more collabs too. I think there's a bunch of people that during the sort of anonymous phase of this thing, they reached out. I mean, it's weird. We actually got reached out to by a couple of our like heroes. Weirdly, I think we mentioned one of our heroes in an interview, and
who?
one of them DM'd us.
Jim James.
Tim James from My Morning Jacket.
Yeah, he
I just
DM'd
saw
us
him
because,
last weekend, actually. I
oh,
saw him
you went
perform.
to the acoustic thing.
Yeah, I was
Was
at,
it
yeah, the music
amazing?
thing. Yeah, it was amazing actually. It was
I
really
love
cool.
him.
So he
So
reached out to you. Wow.
He
yeah,
just
so I worked
the
with
band
with
account.
Blake. I worked with Blake Mills on something, and I'm a huge fan of his because he did one of our favorite records of Jim James, which is called Eternally Even. And we did an interview with LA Weekly where it talked, and at least in my questions and
Anonymously.
answers, yeah, about how influential that was. And he DM'd us. It was like someone sent it to him, and then hit us up. I was like, the
He was
coolest
like,
day of my
"Hey,
life.
we like your. I heard you say some nice things about my solo album. Thanks. I checked out your stuff. I really like it." And then Vinny and I both went, and we kind of just
You
freaked
I
think
out.
lost it.
you think that's gonna happen? Like, are you gonna do something together or like
Oh, I
cool?
don't know. I think he was just being nice,
No,
but
I think
I
yeah,
would
he was just
absolutely
being
do
nice
it.
hitting us up, but obviously,
let's
yeah, that would be
put it out.
incredible.
Let's put it out
Absolutely.
there. Who else would you like to collaborate with if you had your dream collaborations?
I mean, Justin Vernon for sure would be awesome from Bonnie Bear would be cool. I mean, I'd say James Blake is someone cool too, but I think Nick and I have embraced a little bit more of our hybrid side sonically of like this electronic organic hybrid is more where we're falling into now than leaning one way or the other. So I'd
Blake is
say
kind of firmly in his lane. I think it's a very abstract lane, but I think
doing music with
Bonnie Bear
Blake
makes
Mills would
more
be
sense because
amazing.
Bonnie Bear makes more sense because, and again, this is like a dream team, right? Who knows? You can never. But Bonnie Bear has this sort of weird thing where he straddles like folk and this sort of post, neo soul electronic thing that he does. And it's like one of the artists where like, yeah, if there's a lane for that, maybe there's a lane for us.
You know,
Melodically,
the lanes are open. So
lanes for us.
yeah, it's a whole new world. Thank you for on literally the day that this reveal happened that
Yeah,
you
whatever.
took I like the word reveal. I just think it has this kind of dramatic. Why not lean into the drama? But I know you're not dramatic
Whatever.
guys, so
We're really not. That's why we're like, that's the music's more exciting than my stupid face.
that
Yeah.
is not true. But I really enjoyed this interview. I found it exciting. So thank you so much to both of you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.